Hi, my name is Katie Hodges, and welcome to my podcast. This week has been extremely busy, and so I'm sorry to get this episode out a couple days late, but my goal was to release an episode every week for 20 weeks straight. I never miss a week. So as long as I stick to that, I'm going to give myself a little bit of grace if it's not every Wednesday when life shows up. So here we are. This week has been really life-changing for me, and I'm putting together some really interesting stuff. But today I'm going to talk about being stuck, which is the episode that I wrote in tandem to last week's episode about anxiety, because I found some really interesting stuff about how being stuck is a signal, which can be triggered by anxiety. It's the same sort of thing as far as like how it's signaling your mind and your body and why you feel like that. So I wrote a lot on it because I've been having trouble all week putting my thoughts together. So I'm going to be reading a lot tonight. Um, and then I'm also going to be trying to cut it down because I wrote like 12 pages of stuff. And so I'm only going to be sharing a little bit. And then I think I'm going to be starting a newsletter to kind of share all these bigger, broader strokes. It's something I've been thinking about for, I don't know, over a month now, but I just haven't had the time to do it yet. I'm taking on a lot right now with, the podcast and everything. So one step at a time. Okay, so being stuck, something I relate to a lot. I literally spent almost a whole year being stuck last year. But really, it was like a good 6 months of being just really, really, really stuck to a point where the last 3 months of it were a total depression. And I didn't really understand what was going on. You know, I mean, I thought I did, but in reality and in hindsight, I had no idea what was happening in my mind and my body. And I became so stuck that I didn't even realize it. And that led to just being completely helpless feeling, really feeling like a victim, really feeling like everything and everyone was against me, and really feeling like I couldn't handle the world or that I wasn't worth it. And looking back now, understanding now how anxiety works, how it's a sympathetic nervous system response, understanding how being stuck is a signal, understanding how anxiety is a fight or flight response, and that living in it can damage you long term, damage your physical health, your mental health, your ability to show up. I'm just trying to keep one foot in front of the other and keep my chin up and remember that what I went through is not a moral failing, that it could happen to anybody and it happens to a lot of people, and that as long as I keep doing this, I can continue to learn the lessons that I need to know to understand what happened to me, understand that it happens to a lot of people and it's nothing to be ashamed of, but it's something that needs to be managed and worked on. So I'm going to be quoting Mel Robbins a lot. She has a great philosophy around what being stuck is and how it affects us. And she's done a lot of writing and podcasts on how to get out of it. And although I didn't have time to go through everything, I got a couple great quotes from her that really sparked some interest for me. So I'm going to share them with you. Being stuck is one of the most universal feelings of the human experience. Anxiety is a signal that means pay attention. It is a signal for fight or flight. Anxiety is tied to your fundamental need for safety. When you stop growing, you feel stuck. stagnant, trapped. Feeling stuck is also a signal. It's a signal that you've stopped growing. It's tied to a fundamental need for growth. And then that made me think of the Tony Robbins quote, which I believe says, progress is the foundation of human happiness. I know that this is true for me. Whenever I get stuck, whenever I get stagnant, whenever I stop working on myself or stop working on projects for myself, I always end up being more unhappy. Whether it's a long period of time that ends up leading to a depression because I don't really feel like I have purpose, or I don't have joy in anything that I do in my life, or even if it's a short little slump where I'm just not making progress in something, I've kind of plateaued, and I start to feel really anxious, and I start to get this signal like, why am I not there yet? Why am I not good enough? And so feeling stuck is simply a signal. It's a signal that we need to grow. It's a signal that we need to change something, that we need to do something. So it comes from a lack of growth and a lack of change. It can be a job that you're stuck in, a marriage. It could be circumstances. It could be your health. It could be emotional health. It could be a lot of things, but it comes from being stagnant or not making progress in some area or many areas of your life. So, breaking the loop. I used to focus so much on the why. Why did I feel like this? What happened? What was the trigger? Etc. Basically, all trying to work out all of the past trauma that I had had or been through, and never really truly changing, even with this awareness, but never changing long term. And I came to this conclusion recently that sometimes you just have to let things die. What's lost is lost. And that was really freeing because it gave me the permission and the grace to start to change, even though I hadn't figured everything out yet, even though I wasn't better yet, even though mentally I hadn't gone through all of my trauma yet, I hadn't gone through and fixed my anxiety yet. It gave me permission to say, it's okay, just start now. Start changing now with action. Start putting one foot in front of the other. Because what happens is you have an awareness that at first makes you feel lighter and more free, because now you're finally understanding what's happening in your mind and your body. You finally understand what's happened to you and how it affected you and how it caused this trauma and pain in you and why you're responding physically and mentally the way that you do. But then what can happen if you're not careful is you get stuck in this loop, and it's just this endless negative feedback loop of all the things you've done wrong, all the things you've said wrong, all the things that other people did to you, all the horrible experiences you've had, all of your trauma just getting recycled in a loop back to you. And it really starts to fuck with you. It really starts to ebb at your self-worth, if you even have any left, which I didn't. It really starts to make you feel more trapped and helpless because all you can see now is your negative qualities, is all the things you've done wrong, is all the ways you've hurt people, is all the ways people have hurt you. And it really starts to trap you if you're not careful. So, breaking this loop, you have to understand that it is a loop and you're the only one who can break it. You have to understand that this voice inside your head, although it can be useful since you sought it out in order to change, it can really, really mess with you and push you backwards if you don't learn to control it and you don't learn to distrust it. Mel Robbins says, "You're not broken. You have patterns of thinking and patterns of behavior that are broken for where you want to go in life." So you're not broken. Your way of thinking is broken. Your patterns of behavior are broken. Your habits are broken. If you want to lose weight, but you're so used to getting up in the middle of the night and snacking that you don't even realize you're doing it until you're already back in bed with a box of Cheez-Its or a bowl of ice cream, and you don't even realize it until you wake up the next day and you're like, oh my God, I did it again. That is a broken pattern of behavior. That kind of stuff is so hard to fix. But once you realize that you can fix it or that you can change any of it, you can change the way you think, the way you talk to yourself. It opens up a ton of new doors because now if you gain the tools to change these things, nothing can control you anymore. Not your own urges, not your own thoughts, not your own patterns. You can actively change your patterns with work. And you have to realize that, like she said, you're not broken. Your patterns of thinking and your patterns of behavior are broken. That's what you need to fix first. So, how do I start to do this? I choose to focus instead on the present and the future and action. I can't change the past or control anyone else or take back things I did and said. So constantly digging into it is just going to keep me trapped in that cycle. Sure, awareness is good and denial is never healthy, but at some point you just need to do the work instead of thinking about everything that has happened over and over. And I feel like the cycle kind of goes like this, like, there's the trauma and the external experiences, and then you feel like blame and guilt and denial, and then you lose your self-worth, and then anxiety really kicks in if it hasn't already, which for me it starts at phase 1. But anxiety will kick in and you really start to feel shame, deep shame, which I talked about in, I think, my second episode. And that shame tells you who you are is not okay. And then you start to live in that shame. And your head starts to repeat back all of those different levels of what has happened to you, and it cycles them back to you. So you just have to stop the pattern. So one of the ways I broke the pattern, and it took a lot of ways for me to do this because I would kind of snap out of that way of thinking, and then I would fall back into it. And then I would snap out of it and I'd fall back into it. And it took a culmination of tools and me trying to snap out of it multiple times over months to actually be different and actually like take a first real step as a new person that was still completely needed work. I mean, like the first month of this year, I finally felt different after months, but I have been working all year since that moment that I truly broke the cycle, to keep working and become the person who I feel like I am now and how I feel now. So it's taken me 12 months from the time that I broke the loop to just basically be okay. And I know it sounds scary, but compared to living in that cycle of shame and guilt and pain and trauma forever, it's so worth it. So, one of the things that I did, among the many things, was I had to forgive myself and I had to tell myself that if I could have done better in the past, that I would have. If I could have done better, I would have. But I couldn't have because I was so fucked up. I was so broken. I was so misguided and disillusioned that I wasn't capable of having any other reactions other than the ones I had. And that realization gave me permission to forgive myself, which I'm still working on. But it also gave me another realization, or backed up the realization I'd already had, that I don't want to be a slave to my reactions. I don't want to be carried or driven by my emotions. I don't want to be controlled by how I feel. I don't want to just react. I don't want to just be a trauma response. That's not who I want to be. So that really helped me in giving me permission to break the loop, and then also solidifying again that this was not who I wanted to be. I'm not perfect. Nobody is. So I had to stop beating myself up. I had to stop comparing myself to others. I had to stop bashing my looks, bashing my self-worth, stop hating myself, and give myself permission to grow. I had to give myself permission. I had to allow myself grace. I had to allow myself the grace to grow, and I had to allow myself the grace to fail. And I had to realize that I would fail a lot at this journey and a lot at changing myself, and I wouldn't always act the way that I wanted to act, but that as long as I kept doing my absolute best every day and making sure that my best is better than the day before, that I could make progress. But I had to give myself permission, because when you feel worthless and you feel stuck, you feel like you're trapped and that you don't have permission to do anything. You literally feel shackled by whatever is holding you back. So you have to give yourself permission to move forward, whatever that looks like for you. For me, once I had a bunch of these realizations that I've talked about throughout the episodes, the main thing is that action is the cure. It took me a few months to get my mindset able to accept all these things that I've learned. But like I said, I still wasn't truly changing. It still took me months to take the first step and actually do something, to take the first step and actually get out of bed consistently in the morning, to take the first step and actually show up for myself. But action is definitely the cure to truly changing your life. I don't know where I'd be if I didn't throw myself so deeply into writing this year. If I didn't write every single day, I would not be here. I would not be here and feel this way and feel this much better and able to handle what life throws at me right now if I didn't have this podcast, if I wasn't constantly researching and working on these things and making realizations and then actively practicing them every single day. So taking action is the only way to truly move forward, because you can have the best mindset in the world, but if you don't do anything to change your life, to change your situation, to change your health, then you're not going to go anywhere. And you're definitely not going to sustain anything long term. So first you have to understand that you can change. You have to change your mindset. You have to understand that you can change. I recommend reading the book Mindset by Duyweck if you've really never thought about this before. It talks about a growth mindset and a fixed mindset, and how most people live in a fixed mindset and don't even know it. Like, they basically believe that whoever you are is who you are and nothing can change that. And obviously, a growth mindset basically realizes that we are absolutely made to change. And not only can we change, but we should. And that constantly growing is really beneficial to us, but also the only way to really expand yourself and to really give yourself that permission to continue to grow. Because if you don't realize that you have to keep growing constantly, that you have to keep working on yourself, working harder at your job, working harder in your life, in your family, in your relationships, and you think that you basically just have to start and then maintain, things in your life are going to either become stagnant or wither and die, or you're going to become complacent or unhappy. I mean, if all you had to do was fill out an application for a job and then never do any work at it again, that would be great, but that's not how life works. You have to put in the application. You have to get the job. Then you have to work to keep the job to make sure you make it past your probationary period. And then You have to keep working just as hard, if not harder. And say you get promoted or you want to get promoted, you have to work twice as hard as you worked before. You can't put in the same effort and the same amount of knowledge to something all the time if you want to make progress. If you want to stay where you're at, sure, that works. But I've never been happy with staying where I'm at. And in fact, staying where I'm at consistently makes me very unhappy and actually pushes me backwards. So you have to first change your mindset. You have to realize that you are made to grow, and that most likely, if you're like me, that you have to continue growing constantly, or not only will you get stagnant, but you will fall backwards. So, in my opinion, a growth mindset is essential to change. And for me personally, it's essential to progress and happiness. Another quote from Robbins is, feeling stuck means that a fundamental thing that is required for you to be happy and healthy is missing. So if you feel stuck, it's not a signal that you're broken. It's a signal that you need to change something that's making you anxious or uncomfortable or not allowing you to love yourself or making you not feel safe or worthy anymore. It's simply a signal. And this is where you have to see for yourself and analyze for yourself. Is it your mindset? Is it truly your circumstances? Is it a trauma, etc.? And then you have to start to mentally go through that and recognize it so that you can start to take control of those broken patterns of thinking and behavior, and then move forward with action once you've kind of figure out where you're starting from. If you don't even know where you're starting from, it can seem daunting. She also says, the mountain feels insurmountable because you feel like it's too late, but the work is the work. The work is the work. The work is not going to change. The longer you wait, it might get harder because you might dig that hole deeper. It might cost more from you. It might take more effort. It might take bigger pieces of you to change. But the work is the work. And the work isn't going anywhere. So the longer that you sit and feel stuck and let yourself be stuck, the longer that work is going to keep piling up for you to change. And it's always going to be there. It's never going to go away. If you're stuck, you aren't just going to wake up one day and be happy all of a sudden. Somebody else isn't going to come and save you. There's nobody coming to save you. You're the only one who can unstuck yourself. It really helps if you have support of your friends, your family, your partner, people around you in your life. It can really help. But people in your life can really help you if you let them in. But you have to take the first step for yourself. If you surround yourself with people who have a growth mindset, it's going to make it so much easier to change those patterns of thinking and behavior in your life. One of the easiest ways to stay stuck is to surround yourself with people who have a fixed mindset or people who don't have the same values and goals as you. If you're trying to get healthy, surrounding yourself with people who just party all the time is going to make it harder for you. If you're trying to be happy, surrounding yourself with negative people will make it harder for you. Trying to control people to change or help you to or help make people be who you want them to be is going to make it harder for you. So, the more people you have in your life who are open and honest and loving and supporting, the easier this process is going to be for you. So, it gives you people who you can count on. It gives you people to look up to. It gives you people who will also give you grace if you're open and honest with them about what you're going through in your journey. And it can provide a really healthy support system. So try and find those people. And if you don't have anybody like that in your life, reach out, try and find a book that you really love and then join a group on it. You know, other people who are going through the similar thing as you, who believe the same stuff as you, that you can change, and look for inspiration right in front of you too, in your community, in people you never really thought you had anything in common with, but see how they've changed their lives and see what you can draw from that. Look for inspiration and support wherever you can get it. And the easiest way to help change your circumstances is to change your environment, and the people we surround ourselves with are a huge part of that environment. Mel Robbins says, the fastest way to start controlling your life is to stop trying to control other people. So I choose to focus on what I can control, which is my body and my mind. That's it. And even right now, I'm still not great at that. I still have lots of patterns of behavior and thinking that I catch myself thinking in a loop or thinking an old thought or a negative thought, and it's controlling how I feel. Or I catch myself hungry and I want to go to the old snacks that are so good, or go out and just eat a ton of food like I used to. But that's my cravings controlling my life and my future because I don't want to look how I used to look. So the only thing I can control is my mind and my body. And the most important thing to me is learning to control those. That's my journey right now. Learning to control my mind, learning to control my emotions, learning to control my body, to be in control of myself 100% of the time and not give that power away to any habit or thought or circumstance. So, a really easy way to start to change your life if you're stuck, or if you're depressed, or if you're just absolutely struggling and you don't know why, is to get healthy. Our bodies are so dysregulated by living what is considered a normal life right now. Like, the average life is so unhealthy with the food that we eat and we put into ourselves, the constant stream of sugary drinks and snacks and just crap. And I know that there's got to be some statistic that I don't know about how much the average person moves their body or works out, and it's got to be a dismal percentage of the population. If your body is in control of you, or you're controlled by your cravings or something like that, you're going to have a lot of trouble. You're not going to feel good. You're going to be most likely overweight or underweight, depending on your body type and your metabolism, and you're just not going to feel healthy. So for me, a big thing is to first get healthy, because it's something that you can control. Even little steps will make a huge difference in your life. Whereas learning to control your mind takes serious cognitive power and willpower to start to really make big changes. I find that little inspirational moments are so easy for me. Lasting change is super hard. And so get healthy. Figuring out a new job or career or path in life takes time. It's super daunting, and it takes away a lot of people's motivation. So this is why motivation is not a viable source. Stop waiting. Stop beating yourself up until you're ready or feel motivated. You're never going to be ready. You're never going to feel motivated just magically. That's not how motivation works. And even if it does, and you get some magical spark of motivation and you feel super better, then what happens when you lose that motivation? What happens when that motivation goes away and things get hard again? You're going to stop. So you have to start when you're not ready. When you're not ready is the perfect time to take action, because you'll never be ready unless you're living in action. And even if an opportunity presents itself, you won't be ready. You won't be able to seize it or take it because you weren't preparing when you were stuck in the shitstorm. And when everything starts to get easy, if you start when it's easy, what happens when it gets hard again? You're going to stop. So start with your health. It's the quickest shortcut to changing how you feel and your accountability to yourself. If you're the kind of person that always eats crappy food, starting to eat healthy will change the story you tell yourself when you're by yourself. If you're lazy, like me, starting to go with the gym and go consistently, even just once or twice a week, but keeping up with it is going to change the story that you tell yourself. You're not somebody who is fat and lazy and just sitting there all the time. You're somebody who gets up and takes care of themselves. You're somebody who cares about your health, who cares about the way that you look and feel. And if you're not taking actions to get yourself healthy and change that story that you tell yourself and change your self-worth and be accountable to yourself, you're really going to struggle. If your body is your enemy and you are fighting yourself and your biology, it makes everything harder. You will not win a battle against your biology if you are a slave to your body. Your biology will always win. If you're not being healthy in whatever that means to you, then you're not loving yourself or giving yourself a fighting chance and making your health and your life a priority. You won't feel physically good, and that's really going to affect you mentally. I know that from every single depression I've ever been through or every low in my life, even if it didn't result in a depression, I was not physically active, or I may have been working out a little bit, but not up to my standards, but I was eating super crappy and I was overeating. Every single time that I have been at a low point, it has also correlated with my physical health. Either my physical health went first and then my mental health, or my mental health started to get unstable and I immediately dropped off on my physical health, which then totally affected my mental health. It's really all connected. And I wish that I could say you could have one without the other, and maybe you can, but for me, it does not work like that. And from everybody that I follow, that I read, that I listen to, it seems to correlate pretty much the same with them. That if you're not being healthy mentally and physically, you're going to have issues in one area or the other. Investing in your health and making it a priority will help build your accountability to yourself and build your self-worth. Showing up for yourself will change your life. It will change the story that you tell yourself, and that will change your life. Next, you have to stop and think about the person you want to be and the life that you want to live. Who is that person? What are their values? How do they prioritize their life? How do they carry themselves? Are they weak and emotional? Or are they compassionate and in control of all their emotions and their reactions? Really think about that person. Envision that person. Think about how they carry themselves, how they speak, how they think. Think about the things they would tell themselves. Would they constantly bash themselves? Probably not. Think about the life that you want to live. What does that life look like? You know, whether it's some super extreme vision board type of life or whether it's just a healthier, happier version of the life you already have, a more whole feeling life. But you have to really think about it and sit down, because you can't work towards anything effectively and get results without clarity. That's why mission statements in businesses and 5-year plans are essential to growth and scaling a business, because you have to know where you're going. Values. Sit down and make a list. If you don't have clarity on your values, then you can't embody them. You have to embody these values on a daily basis, because you have to practice them constantly with every decision that you make, with every reaction that you have, everything you're working towards. But it takes time, you know? So you need to sit down and think about your values. What are they? What are the values that you have now, or you think you have? And then what are the values, most importantly, of the person that you want to be? You know, think about who that person is. What do they value? What is important to them? How do they carry themselves? For me, because emotions are so hard for me and have controlled me so much in my life, I want to be somebody who is calm and composed and who is compassionate. Compassion is a huge value of mine. Somebody who's understanding and loving and forgiving. Somebody who's loyal and somebody who is hardworking. Somebody who believes in themselves. Somebody who is open and honest and unafraid to hide themselves or to try and make themselves small in the world because they're worried about what other people are going to say. Instead, I would rather be somebody who has nothing to hide, somebody who is calming and who has composure and poise and gives a very serene energy to the people around them. I had to sit and really think about that. What that person looked like, how they walked, how they talked, how they thought when they were with people, how they didn't think and just absorbed when they were listening, how they thought about themselves when they were by themselves. I had to literally envision that person. And it's taking me all year to form what that person looks like in my mind. And from the time that I became really clear on it, I started to notice moments where I was that person. Now, it doesn't last forever because you have to work at it. But for the first time, I was actually carrying myself and feeling and thinking like the person I wanted to be versus a person who was controlled by trauma or emotion. It really will change you if you can have clarity. So sit down, make a list of your values, the values of the person that you want to be. And you have to practice them and embody them every day. You have to embody that person. You have to see who that person is, and you have to be them. And you have to keep being them, no matter what life throws at you. You can't let it change who you are and what you are working for inside. And if you choose good values, you shouldn't have to change them based on circumstance. Your values should carry you through any situation. You know, if you live with intention, you will become the person you want to be. You will grow into the person that you are envisioning, but you have to embody it. So, one of the next steps is you have to stop numbing yourself. This could be with distractions, with TV, with constantly going out and being on the go. This could be drugs and alcohol. This could be other people. You could have to constantly be around others so that you don't have to sit with yourself. Any form of numbing or distraction, you really have to start to taper out of your life. You have to feel and learn to cope with your pain. If your coping mechanism is external, you will always have problems. If you need something outside yourself, whether it's another person or drugs or hiding from the world and sleeping in my case, you will always have problems. You have to heal from within, and that requires you to be emotionally sober and to be able to deal with and face yourself in the mirror and face your problems. If you can't face them and you have to stifle them or you have to numb them or distract yourself, you'll never be able to learn the proper coping mechanisms within yourself to deal with these emotions and to deal with your trauma and to deal with your trauma in a healthy way in the future. Life isn't done. Life isn't done with me yet. I know that there's going to be so many more mountains to climb. I know there's going to be so much more pain. I'm just done being controlled by it. I'm done being controlled and having to look outside myself when the tools that I need to deal with anything that life throws at me have already been given to me. I just have to recognize it. But when you make your coping mechanisms external, or you numb yourself or distract yourself, you give away that power to something or someone else. And therefore, you can never feel okay or deal with something on your own. And you're always going to be searching for something else outside of you to make you feel better. And that's always going to be a race that you're never going to win if you're chasing something else, because it won't truly fulfill you. It might distract you or delay the inevitable. But for me, the more I looked outside of myself, the more I was on the go, trying to just be around others to feel good, the more I was playing video games with every waking second so I didn't have to think in my free time about what was truly going on in my life and in my head and in my body, the more I slept all day, every day to try and not have to be alone with myself, the worse my problems got. And the harder it was to overcome them when I finally decided to change, because I didn't have any coping mechanisms and I couldn't look at myself and I couldn't be alone with myself and be emotionally sober and be really able to work through these things. Another great tool is to have something in the future that you're looking forward to or working towards. You know, I know for myself that when I have a vacation coming up, I work out extra hard. I either stay longer or I work out with more intensity or I go more often because I want to look and feel good when I'm on vacation. And I'm super excited about it. If there's an event coming up or a big project that I'm really excited about, I work twice as hard and twice as long at it. Say there's something you really want to buy or a goal you really want to have, or you want to remodel your house, or you really have gotten to the point where you can afford your dream car, but you're not quite there yet. And it makes you so excited to be at that next level. Having something to look forward to and to work towards is going to keep you going and give you some of that extra excitement, that energy that you really can use when you don't have everything else going right in your life. Goals are so important. Goals, goals, goals. So having something you're working for or having clarity on where you want your life to be or what you want it to look like, or clarity on the person you want to be, and making each of those things a goal is going to give you that energy to change and energy to keep going when it gets really hard, because it will get hard again. Even if you feel better right now, life will throw a wrench your way, especially something you never saw coming. And if you don't have goals, you're going to feel aimless. You're going to feel directionless. And also, all the progress you're making or the work you're doing is most likely not as productive as it could be if you had a clear goal and a clear way to get there. Goals are so important. Get obsessed with your goals. Your goal of the person you want to be and how you want to carry yourself. Your goal of health and fitness. Your goal of your career aspirations. Your goal of your self-worth, your value, your confidence. Your goal for a healthy relationship. Each of these goals makes demands. You have to work at these goals. Everything in life takes work. If you stop working on these, they stop working for you. If you stop working on your goals, they stop working for you. So all the progress you're making can just as easily be lost. If you stop working in your relationship, it falls apart. If you stop working at your job, you get fired. If you stop working on your dream project or your side hustle, it will go nowhere and it will die. everything in life takes work, and everything worthwhile takes a lot of work. You have to focus on what's important to you. You have to invest in it. You have to focus and invest your time, your energy, and consistently put forth effort to make sure that you can reach these goals, to make sure you can have the life that you want. But without having goals to look forward to, whether it's a big goal of a new career or a promotion or buying a house in the next 5 years when you can barely put food on the table right now, or if it's something small like a vacation in a month and you just want to lose 2 pounds before then so that you can fit in your favorite dress, something like that. It doesn't matter, but having goals and something that you're looking forward to and working towards, big or small, is going to help you so much on this journey. If I didn't have a goal of the person I wanted to be, I would not be standing here today. If I didn't have a goal to put out a book this year, I would not be standing here today. If I didn't have a goal to put out 21 podcast episodes before my birthday, I would not be standing here. I have goals, and these goals keep me showing up, even when it's really hard or I'm super busy like this week and I just don't want to. Or even if I want to, because I always want to do this, I just can't seem to either find the time or the energy or the mental health to like really be present. These goals make demands. And I have made a promise to myself to keep these goals and to keep these promises. And having that makes me show up. Having that keeps me accountable. And without that, I would not be here right now. So you have to dig deep and show up for your goals. Your goals make demands. Your goals require work and effort. Dig deep. Show up for yourself and show up for your goals. You need to learn to make promises to yourself and keep them. These goals will have things that you need to do. They will have requirements to achieve them. You need to figure out your own system of how you're going to get there for yourself that works for you and that is realistic, but it should be a bit extraordinary and aspirational. Otherwise, you won't feel as amazing when you get there. But make sure that it is something realistic and then set it out. Make a promise to yourself that you're going to hit those mile markers. For me, it's a podcast every week. Every week. And as I move forward, it will be more than one a week, or it will be a particular type of podcast every week, or it'll be making sure it gets out on the same day every week, or the same day and time every week. I mean, your goals can expand, but you need to start by making little promises to yourself and being accountable to yourself. Without being accountable to yourself, you won't be able to show up for yourself or anything else in your life. You have to make promises to yourself and keep them. And this will dramatically increase your self-worth. I have had a huge problem with being accountable to myself. And I've also had a huge problem with my self-worth. Those two things are intrinsically connected. Without showing up for yourself, without keeping promises that you make to yourself, your self-worth will diminish. If you say that you're going to go to the gym and then you don't go, it may not seem like a big deal, but you do that a couple times and your head starts to tell you, you're not the kind of person who goes to the gym. You're not the kind of person who values yourself or thinks highly of yourself. You're not worth it. And it happens so quickly and without your permission, and all of a sudden you're unhealthy or you're overweight or you're lazy and you just don't know how you got there. And it all starts with breaking little promises to yourself. So I'm going to stop there. And part 2 will be coming up shortly. So Thank you so much for stopping by. If I have anything to add to your life of value, please hit the subscribe button. This tells me that we're all here working on the same shit together. And because I know I'm not the only one who's been through times where they feel stuck or fucked up or worthless. And so we're all here for each other. Have a great night. Thanks for coming to my podcast.